Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. We are going to record this, as I said. And what I'm basically going to cover today is what I cover briefly in class, but I've also gone out to many libraries and sort of walked you through this process at your library. We're going to cover how to use the OCLC Connexion browser to find MARC records and then bring those MARC records into Horizon. It's a relatively simple process that gets a little complicated depending on what browser you're using, and because of Citrix there's some extra steps. So we're going to walk you through, I'm going to walk you through this. Go ahead and jump in with questions at any time. Part of this is so that you can sort of figure this out as you're sitting at your computer. It actually goes a lot smoother when I come out to you and sort of set up your computer. But you guys being there and me being here, hopefully we can work that out. So the first thing I'm going to discuss is OCLC in general and sort of why we are doing this switch to OCLC. The main reason is because OCLC is huge in the cataloging and library world. They are a nonprofit that in many ways wants to not be a nonprofit, but they have the largest single storage location of MARC records. They've been around since the 60s, the late 60s, early 70s. A bunch of libraries in Ohio got together and said, hey, why are we all doing all this original? Let's share our work. So they started sharing each other's MARC records so that one person wasn't doing original on the very same book that the cataloger in the next library was doing. So they started sharing their records. Over the years, other people said, hey, that's a great idea. Let's all share each other's records and we'll save ourselves a lot of time and money. And since then, they've grown and bought things like Dewey and have come out with their own ILS system, their own discovery layer, and they continue to be sort of a huge presence in libraries. But their big main reason for being was MARC records and sharing of MARC records. Then that, of course, developed into ILL and sharing of materials. Currently, the WorldCat database, which is, if you want to see the public side of WorldCat, you would go to worldcat.org, which I'm pulling up here for you right now. Worldcat.org is actually a great tool. WorldCat can do things that the rest of us can't, like develop APIs. You know, I can't do that on my own. SELCO can't even do that for some places on their own. The state of Minnesota can't do that, but a huge international organization like OCLC can do that. So if you get your items and your holdings into OCLC, you can take advantage of some of these larger resources. So the WorldCat database, this is the public side. The staff side is what we're going to spend most of today covering. And that is the connection that you access through Connexion. So this is the staff side, and the main thing that you are probably interested to know is that there are over 200 million MARC records in the Connexion database here, the WorldCat database. I sort of use those terms interchangeably. Connexion is the software we use to access the WorldCat database. So the Connexion database has two ways of accessing it. This is the browser. There's also the client. I see Janet has joined us from Red Wing, I'm assuming. If you can hear me, Janet, just say yes or type in the chat window that you can hear me. The other way to access Connexion or the WorldCat database through Connexion, besides this browser I'm showing you, is the Connexion client. After you go through the reclamation process, we'll have a conversation about sort of what you need and decide if you want to use the client or if you want to continue using the browser. The client has more bells and whistles. It's probably more of what you're used to seeing as far as staff goes. F2 even does a search just like in Horizon. So you can search for records. This is an example. kind of showing you of the client and what the client looks like. So this record right here, you can see it's in MARC. It's held by SELCO. What is this? The Compassionate Carnivore by Catherine Friend. We do own this in the professional collection as one of the Minnesota Book Awards. And you can see here who else owns this title within the state of Minnesota, or the whole country if you wanted to see it. So, for example, Red Wing, because they've always been a full member. Winona, because they too have been a full member. Stewartville, because they recently had their items reclaimed. So, and you can see, you know, the Great River Regional Library and Traverse de Sioux, etc. So the client just works a little differently, has a few more bells and whistles than the browser. But I'll answer some questions. I know Teresa uses the client as well, so if we have time at the end, I'll see what I can answer about the client. But for now, I'm going to focus on the browser because that is what most of the people in the SELCO region are using. So 200 million MARC records are available in Connexion, and there's 27,000 member libraries. So the idea is not only does OCLC have a lot of records, but they have a lot of different libraries that are adding to those records and making sure they're the best records they can be. So kind of collaborative cataloging is the idea here. Okay, so that's a little background on OCLC. So now we're going to move into the nuts and bolts of what we're doing here in the browser. And the first thing I want to tell you all is that I have posted step-by-step instructions for what we're going to cover today in class on the SELCO website. If you go to the SELCO homepage, selco.info, Technology Services, Basic Services, Cataloging, you have to go to the cataloging manual, which is here, and you will need to click to log in. We have to have you log in because the manual has screenshots of Horizon, and so we have to keep it proprietary. So your login is generally the same as your email. It's your Active Directory login. If you can't log in, send me an email or send an email to the help desk, and we'll find. Yep, go ahead. Who was that?
Are you there, Michael?
Yes, Cindy, just a minute. Sorry.
Oh. Okay, looks like Sherry has joined us as well. Let's give her a minute to come on. Thank you, Janet. I can hear you, or I can see your chat. Michael, are you there?
I'm sorry, Cheryl.
Did you have something you wanted? Did you have something you wanted to say?
No, I apologize. Someone was asking me a question via the phone.
Oh, okay. Okay, Sherry, can you hear us? You can type in the chat window just to let me know. Okay, great. So you're probably on the phone, I assume. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. I've kind of covered the basics of OCLC and sort of why we're doing this project, which is mainly to get access to 200 million MARC records. So the instructions that I'm going to walk you through for the OCLC browser today are all on the SELCO website. I'll go back and show you that path again. It's Technology Services, Basic Services, Cataloging. And then it's under the cataloging manual in training, and then you just click here to log in. And that, again, for most of you is the same as your email login for Gmail. It's your Active Directory login. If you have any problems with that, send an email to me or the help desk and we'll get it straightened out. I can also email these to you as attachments. So here are the three steps we're basically going to cover today. So the first step, it wants me to download it. I'm not going to do that because I have them here. They're just Word documents that I've walked you through. There's a lot of screenshots. So this is the first one. And so to start the process, I have you set up your computer. and I have you do something to the Connexion browser. And some of this is because of Citrix. So I will move this over, and you guys are welcome to pull these up on your computers and look at them. There's a lot of screenshots. I hope I've made it very clear to you what you need to do. So the first step, let's see if I can minimize here. Okay. The first step is to go to your C drive. Pull that over. So you want to go to your C drive. Your C drive is the computer in front of you. Remember that you are running Horizon not off of the computer in front of you, but off of a server here in Rochester at the SELCO building. So you have to sort of find your MARC record in the ether of the internet, pull it onto the computer in front of you, then go into Horizon and navigate back to the computer in front of you and pull in that record into Horizon. So the easiest way to sort of accomplish that navigation is to go to the C drive and go to File, New, create a new folder, and I call it OCLC. So that's the first step. You only have to do this once per computer that you're using. If you get a new computer, you would have to do this first step again. Okay, so once that's completed, and why we're doing that will sort of make sense as we get to the end. So once that's completed, you can see my lovely desktop background from my trip to Yellowstone earlier this year. Let's see. So now that you've done that, you want to go to your browser of preference. So most people in the region tend to use Internet Explorer. I personally use Chrome more than anything else. But you can also use Firefox, which I will pull up over here. So whichever browser you use, pull that up. And I'm going to use Internet Explorer because that's what most people use. And you're going to start by going down to where it says Local Browser Settings, down here and towards the right. You're going to click on that, and you're going to select Default. You're going to type in your location's OCLC number, your location's password, and then a name, whatever name you want. It doesn't really matter what the name is unless you have more than one, like I do here. And then Dewey only is no. And you're going to hit Save Settings and Close Window. So I'm hoping some of you are sort of doing this as I'm walking you through it, if you haven't already. This is a great way to save your number so that you don't have to try to remember this 9-digit number all the time and whatever crazy password OCLC has given you. I have two here because sometimes I'm logging in as SELCO and sometimes I'm logging in as agent, which allows me to act on the behalf of the libraries in the region. So I have two different logins. Most of you will only have one. So that's why the name doesn't really matter that much. So I'm saving my settings. They've been stored. You hit OK. So the website that I'm on, I neglected to tell you that, is Connexion. I'm typing it up here in the browser address window. Connexion spelled funny, .oclc.org. I highly recommend bookmarking this if you haven't. I constantly forget that there's an X in Connexion and go, what? So bookmark it, put it on your toolbar. I've got mine on my toolbar on all three of the browsers I use. So the idea is once you've saved it in your local browser settings, it comes up right here. You don't have to type it in every time. It's remembered. And if you have problems with with Connexion not remembering this after you've typed it in, let me know. There is a tools setting that can be adjusted to remember it. So that's actually the end of step one if you're following along on the handouts that I've created. That's the end of step one, browser settings. I'll move that back here so you can see it. So everything in step one you only have to do once. Looks like some of my formatting got strange. You only have to do this once. do these steps the first time you use OCLC Connexion browser or if you're using a new computer. Okay, so now that you've done that, you go to Section 2, and Section 2 is all about how to search OCLC and find the record you want. So how do you search it? Well, you log on, and you're given a whole bunch of tabs, and you can see, depending on what information I had when I set up your account, it may say hello, your name, it may say hello, your library, or a code, or somebody who used to work there. If there's any problems with this, let me know. I can get it fixed and updated to the right person. Yours also probably does not say full mode. It probably says something else. That's okay. That's because you guys haven't reclaimed your holdings for the most part, except for Chatfield and Janet. You guys don't have to really worry about it. Yours should say full. Everybody else's probably says something like search or something like that. Okay, so you're in Connexion. You're in the staff side of WorldCat, and what you really want to do is kind of ignore most of these tabs. You're going to use the Express tab. So go ahead and select the Express tab. It defaults to standard number, which is ISBN and UPC. So what I generally do is scan in the ISBN of the book I have to see what I get first. So I'm just going to do that. I have a few titles that I use for training purposes, and my barcode scanner isn't hooked up at the moment, so I'm actually going to type this in. So I'm typing in my ISBN, and I'm hitting all, or search, sorry. So you'll notice right away I get 2 results, okay? And a lot of people ask me, why do you get so many results? Why do you get more than 1? And there are different reasons. A lot of that is because cataloging has a lot of subjective rules. Looking at these 2, one person decided to make the series more prominent than the other one. It's not how I would catalog it. It's not how probably most people would catalog it. That's the second one where it says number 6. But the Library of Congress, which is number 1, and that's the highlighted LC here, they are trustworthy. So in general, if you see that, that is what you want to take, is the Library of Congress. Or sometimes you will see something called PCC highlighted. PCC are great records. Those are the larger libraries, the New York Publics, the Boston Publics, the Harvards, the Yales, those large libraries that have a lot of resources to commit to cataloging. Their catalogers go through extensive training and qualifications in order to be considered PCC members. They also have to create an authority record in the authority file through LC for every MARC record they create. So they have a lot of standards that make their records very reliable. So in general, if you see LC or PCC highlighted, those are the records you want to take. So I've got a few examples and we'll walk through a few things here. I'm going to switch this back to text display. I prefer to look at the MARC. Most of you probably would prefer to look at it this way as the text. So that's right here, text, MARC display, text display. You can see right away that SELCO does not own this book, and this is S#L is SELCO's holdings code. That is for this building. That is not our entire database. All of you have your own code. And it probably says, if you're looking at this logged in as yourselves and you're looking at a record, it'll say no holdings in, and then it'll give you your holdings code. But 52 other libraries in the world have this book, this Murder Most Medieval, which I got for Christmas a few years ago. So once you've determined what record you want, and in this case we know we want this one because it had the LC, if you weren't sure, I guess you could move between the records right here. I'm going to go to the second record, one of two, just to show you. Yeah, and you'll notice right away that this is not right. I'm looking at the title page, which is, of course, the chief source of information, and there is no number 6 on there. So maybe they had a different publication of it. I don't know. But this is not the record that matches what you have in your hand. So you wouldn't want this record. It also only has one other library, probably the one that created this record, has their holdings attached to it. That's usually a good indication that it's not such a good record. So go back to your original record that you want, and what you're going to do is you're going to hit, you guys only have the export only option unless you've been reclaimed. The difference is export just takes a copy of the record, where save to catalog will attach your holdings and you'll take a copy of the record. So you're going to export only. And so what it's done, move this back over. What it's done is it's told you you have successfully cataloged that item. And it has exported that OCLC number, which is the unique identifier that OCLC uses for that record. So what I tell people when I'm training them is think of a manila folder that you would put in a filing cabinet, and you have just stuck a MARC record in that manila folder. You just think of it as printing out a piece of paper and sticking it in that manila folder. And your manila folder is just going to get more pieces of paper. So it's one file that just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And you just keep adding more MARC records to that one file. So we've done our one search. Now I'm going to go to the next book that I have, which, and this one only has one, I believe. So I'm going to type in the next ISBN. Okay, I'm going to do a search. There's only going to be one record for this, which is why only the one pulled up. These are my old college textbooks. So you'll notice there's only one record, and it brings you right to the display for it. It tells you that there's 3 other libraries that have this. I'm going to take a minute and make sure that it matches what I have in my hand. Usually the first place I check is the 300 field to kind of look over the physical description, and sure enough, it's got 7 introductory pages and go to the back, 210 pages. The title page is Elementary Latin Exercises, an Introduction to North and Hilliard's Latin Prose Composition, etc., etc. It does match, and it is Focus Classic reprints, Focus Publishing. That's what's on the title page. It is 1999 copyright. So this is the record I want, which is good because it's the only one in there. So I'm going to hit export only for this as well. And now you'll see it's also added this MARC record to that same manila folder. Okay? So now you're probably wondering what you do when you don't have an ISBN, or if you don't want to search by ISBN. You don't have to search by ISBN. So the easiest way to do a more advanced search is you're in basic search here, is to go up here to search results and change it from basic to advanced. And then you get all of your different indexes. And WorldCat has a lot of indexes. So in general, standard number, and they're not even all on here. ISBN, you can do an author title search. So here's author, you can do title. So we'll just do another record and see if we can pull this up. So the author of the next book I have is Daniel Garrison. So I'm going to do Garrison, and the title is called The Student's Catullus. So I'm just going to put in Catullus. So we'll see what kind of results we get with this. Whoop. You'll notice UKM is highlighted here. Again, that's, LC is our national library. this is obviously the United Kingdom's National Library. Those are generally good records too, but you might need to edit them a little bit because they're British, so they might have a little bit of differences in wording and whatnot. Okay, so we've got 31 results, and how do you figure out which one you want when you've got so many results? Well, right away, no, I don't want number 1. So I'm going to go to the next page because I'm looking for LC or PCC, and here's 2 LCs. So I'm going to go to the next one, and here's a PCC record. I prefer PCC records. Some people prefer LC. So I'm going to check the date. I'm looking at my book now, and actually mine is from 1995. So I'm going to go back a page because those 2 were 2000 and 2001, and I'm going to take this one because it's 1995. And that's actually in brackets is how it's written on the book itself. So this is what I'm going to take. This looks like it matches what I have in my hand. Let me just make sure I have the 2nd edition, and I do. University of Oklahoma Press, Norman. And it is volume 5 in the Oklahoma series in classical culture. So I'm going to take this record, and you'll notice 166 other holdings and 7 other what are called institutional records, which for the most part you don't have to worry about what those IRs mean. There used to be a competitor to OCLC, not really a competitor, called Arlen. It was for research libraries mainly. I used to use Arlen when I was in Chicago, and it didn't have nearly as many records as OCLC, so we actually had to search both. Back in, let's see, 2007, OCLC bought Arlen, and so a compromise for those Arlen libraries was this creation of institutional records, and I don't really know the details of what they do. I just know they have something to do with Arlen libraries, and we are not an Arlen library, so we don't have to worry about them. Okay, Alan, thanks. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and export only, and I'm exporting only because I obviously don't want to add my holdings to these because they're not. We're not actually adding them to SELCO. I'm doing them as examples. So I exported. I've made my file bigger and bigger. And I've shown you, I think, how to search by both basic and advanced search. So I'm going to pause here and find out if anybody has any questions about searching WorldCat or any other questions in general. You can go ahead and type them if that's easier for you. Okay, doesn't look like anybody has questions. So if you do have a question as we're going on, feel free to type it in the chat and I will get to it as soon as I can. Okay, so we have now pretty much gone through step 2 of this process where you see the different, you've searched for your records and you've put them into a file. So the next thing we need to do is we need to download that file of records onto our desktop. So the easiest way, or actually the only way to do this in the browser, is to go up to Other Options and download your exported files. You go to Download Your Export Files, and you notice right away that there's one file that is not downloaded. And it tells you right there it's not downloaded. It gives you the authorization number. That's my authorization number. And it tells you when that file was created. It's on Eastern Time because it's Ohio. And so obviously this is the one you want to download. So you click that. You're going to hit download. So I get this little pop-up that asks me, do you want to open or save or export or save this file? And that's just what OCLC calls all their files, export.dat. So you always want to save or save as Generally, I save as. So now you're going to navigate back to your C drive. Way back in the beginning, we created that folder, OCLC folder, and this is why. We want to have one place to put our records into. Otherwise, we'll keep running into, otherwise when we go to load them into Citrix, there's going to be a whole bunch of problems with finding our records. So at this point, I tell everyone to name their export file something. Usually I suggest the date. So today is 12/4. 12. Name it that because it's really easy to pick up the same file over and over again. And then you'll keep picking up the same 3 records over and over again. You'll keep getting errors when you load them into Horizon, and then you'll call the help desk or you'll contact me and we'll have to figure out what's going on. So name your files with the date, and that helps keep them clear when you go to load them in. So save. Okay, so now it's saved that file onto your desktop, or onto your C drive, sorry. I recommend not using your desktop for the browser, and I'll show you why when we get into Horizon here in a minute. But I want to pause before we move into Horizon and import that file, and I want to explain that this is where, when you're downloading the file, is where your choice of browser becomes important. The Internet Explorer, if you use PC Reliance through SELCO, Mike Flores has your Internet Explorer set up correctly so that it should have worked much like the way you just saw mine work. If you're at a school, or if you don't get PC Reliance through SELCO, you are probably going to run into a pop-up blocker. In which case, in Internet Explorer, you go to Tools and Pop-up Blocker, turn on Pop-up Blocker, or in your case it would be turn off Pop-up Blocker. Sometimes you don't have the ability to access your tools. Depending on what version of Internet Explorer you use, it may be in this drop-down box, or it may be here in Internet Options further in. And so depending upon your access to your own computers, you may or may not be able to turn off your pop-up blockers. So for people who cannot turn off their pop-up blockers, I first suggest talking to your IT person and getting your pop-up blocker turned off for connection.oclc.org. If you can't do that, then you're going to need to download that file twice. The first time, it basically gives you an empty file, and when you load it into Horizon, you'll get all sorts of errors. So you need to download it a second time and name it something else so you don't keep grabbing the same file. And then that one will actually be the MARC records in the file. I don't really understand why it works that way. I just know that downloading it twice works. And if you can't turn your pop-up blocker off, that's one option, is to download your record twice.